Ukraine situation and what it would entail as being plastic. It could go either way. Can you game us one or two ways how you think it could go?
Sure. So I think, as I say, what people are imagining in both sides, in Ukraine and Russia, is, we win, one side says, and the other says, no, we will win. Those things happen very rarely. If you look at the history of war, most wars end in a very complicated, messy, negotiated settlement where both sides feel deeply unhappy. There is a kind of status quo that is formalized. One can call it a line of control. One can call it the DMZ, right? Those are the realities. Those are the real endings to wars. I'll give you an example of the kind of thing I'm talking about. The United States and North Korea, negotiated for 2 years while the Korean War continued, and thousands of Americans and tens of thousands of Koreans were dying over the issue of exchange of prisoners of war. At the end of the war, 2 years the Korean War went on, longer than it needed to. So imagine, for people imagining this is going to somehow, we're going to quickly negotiate this, the world is going to go back to normal, I think it's highly unlikely. And that's why I say I think these sanctions, or large parts of them, stay on, the decoupling stays on, the high energy prices will stay on. So, you will get to some eventual settlement that I believe is likely to look something like this. The Russians will keep Crimea, of course. They will keep a larger part of eastern Ukraine than they had at the start. They want, I know from the negotiations taking place, they want to take it almost as far as Odessa, including the cities like Mariupol. The Ukrainians are dead set against this, but the Ukrainians will not accept this. So there will be some kind of legalized fiction where the Ukrainians will say this is our territory, the Russians will say it's our territory, but they will agree to stop fighting over it. And there will be a kind of gray zone where these countries will be regarded by the Ukrainians, these regions will be regarded by the Ukrainians as theirs, they will be regarded by the Russians as theirs. And then the question is, what happens to the international order that has fractured? I think in that scenario, which is the most likely scenario, because I cannot see the Russians withdrawing from eastern Ukraine, let alone Crimea. In that scenario, Western sanctions may be dialed back, but they will not come off. Russia will still be substantially isolated from the world economy, which means it will move fairly substantially into China's orbit, which means that you begin this process of a kind of divergence and bifurcation. I really don't even think it's 3 zones. Montek or somebody was saying, I think it was Shankar, there is no third zone. I mean, the non-Chinese, non-US zone doesn't exist. What is it going to be? The rupee is the third reserve currency of the world? No, I mean, there are really just 2 options. And it in some ways would be clarifying for India to understand that. You either go with China's alternative, or you go with the zone of the West. Those are your choices.
Yeah, ideas of India.